Welcome back to Home is Where the Hearts Are. This is Build Episode 7. In this episode, we're doing a lot of plumbing, so we start by doing a little work on the kitchen dinette first.
What I'm doing is I'm cutting a little channel out right here, about, probably the thickness of my thumb, from here all the way through. That way, because we want this to be removable to gain access to our water pump as well as our tank. Heaven forbid anything happen. So we want to be able to remove it without having to take the hose off of the pump, and then also we're going to run our electric cord out and around this way to the pump, so that way we don't have to undo that. So it's just going to make it easier. So real quick, I'm going to grab my square.
Never forget the square. And of course, we've got the Ryobi clan here to do the job. Once the notch was cut out, we took the dinette to the howe for a rough fitting. The notch in the dinette was perfect, so we moved on to permanently mounting the Shurflo pump. After the pump was mounted, James attached the Shurflo twist-on strainer between the intake PEX pipe and the pump itself. It's important to have this to help avoid your Shurflo pump from getting gunked up and clogging.
We've got to drill a hole through here for the PEX pipe to come through. And then we've got to tighten this down to where it's facing that way. Right now it's just sitting on there to give us kind of an idea of where that is going to sit.
Is that considered a 90?
Technically, yeah, it's considered a 90, but these are also 90s.
So
they call
is
elbows.
This one something that we'll lose pressure from?
Not so much as these ones. So every 90 you will lose pressure at, but these ones,
Gotta move down a little.
These ones, if you can see inside, are a little bit different than that one. So the water has less room to maneuver through here, so it'll stop it a little bit more, as opposed to this one.
Those are pretty big.
Yeah, it's got a pretty big entrance, and then it channels down, which this right here, kind of going from a bigger opening to a smaller channel, that actually does increase the pressure. When you narrow down with the same amount of PSI, narrow down the channel water goes through, it creates that high pressure. So yeah, we're losing pressure on 90s like this, but we're gaining a little bit more pressure. Not too much. It's probably not even going to be noticeable. But I mean, there are people who probably have like way more because they have to go around or something, different obstacles in there.
And I mean, we're not looking for like jacuzzi jet pressure.
No, we don't need screaming pressures, but this thing does put out a lot of pressure anyways, so
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, me too. All right. So
we used a 1-inch paddle bit to bore out the hole. James hand tightened the elbow and then used a crescent wrench to snug it down. Once we clamped it to the PEX pipe, we cut the excess on the other side and started the process of adding the path of PEX pipe that will carry water from our water tank to our water heater. And from there, it'll disperse into our kitchen sink and our shower. Go on.
Now, here's a little tip. When you're doing your plumber's tape, you want to wrap it in the same direction that you are threading, because when you wrap it and the threads end this way, it'll keep the threads going the same way, so you don't have to worry about that going a different way and bunching the threads up to where you can't put it on correctly. So, righty-tighty.
Once we completed the single intake line from the tank to the heater, we decided to use 3M fire barrier sealant around the entire base where the exhaust on the water heater meets the exhaust pipe exiting the trailer. We also put it around every hole on the pipe, just in case. We wanted to mitigate all opportunities for exhaust, aka carbon monoxide, the one that does you harm, from escaping into the trailer. This one is made specifically to guard against damage from fire, smoke, and toxic gases. The latex sealant withstands flames for up to 4 hours and even expands when exposed to heat. Coming out of the tube, it does have a pretty gritty texture to it. We use the color red and it does dry that way, so be mindful of where it goes. The next step was to install our hot water line from our heater to the sink and shower. However, when we went to install that, we noticed we got a little too excited with plumbing and closed off our cold water line before feeding it to the sink and shower first. So we corrected our mistake and teed off the cold water line, then moved on to the hot water line. Once that was done, it was time to permanently install our butcher block countertop. In order to do that, we needed to drill a hole for the faucet as well as permanently install the sink. Since this hole was going in our butcher block, we wanted it to be as clean as possible, so we got a Forstner drill bit that's specific to woodworking, and it worked beautifully. After we installed the kitchen sink faucet, it was time to run our hot and cold water lines up to our shower mixer. We started by using the faceplate of the shower mixer to trace the size of the mixer itself. Then we used our oscillator to make a perfect cut. The shower mixer fit snugly, so we moved on to the next step, which was using a 3/4 inch paddle bit for the shower head to go through. We got everything clamped down and fastened tightly, and then created a really simple backing for the shower mixer to be affixed to. With all the PEX piping in place, the next step for the plumbing was to install the fill hose and fill port for the water tank. After cutting yet another hole in the side of the trailer, it was time to permanently install the water port. We used this gravity fill port by Valterra. We decided to go with a gravity fill port because we wanted the ability to fill with both a hose connected to a city water spigot and water tanks if we had to. For the fill hose, we used this braided PVC vinyl tubing. We wanted something pretty thick and heavy duty for the fill hose to try and avoid the possibilities of leaks inside the cargo trailer. Also, this particular fill port came with a 1/2 inch air vent for faster fill rates, so that's why you're seeing the blue PEX pipe next to the fill hose. Once everything was clamped down and the port was installed, it was time for the fateful test of filling the water tank for the very first time. Thankfully, we had 0 leaks, so we sealed it up with silicone and moved on to the next task. James is cutting the aluminum L channel to fit our shower trim. With a metal blade, our Ryobi oscillator cut through that aluminum like butter. After pre-drilling pilot holes in the aluminum channel with a metal bit, James screwed the aluminum channel into the shower and the shower trim was complete. Next up was the installation of our propane furnace. With all the furnace options out there, we ultimately decided to go with a Suburban RV furnace. This one puts out 16,000 BTUs of heat and was exactly what we needed to heat our 16-foot cargo trailer in very cold temperatures. To protect the furnace, we needed to build a housing for it. We knew the housing would get pretty warm and could pose a potential fire risk to wood if used by itself, so we used 1/4 inch cement backing board to create a 5-sided box for it. We actually got this idea from another couple who was building a stationary tiny home. I'll be sure to put the link to their channel in the description. Next, we used our 2-inch hole saw to cut out the furnace exhaust and intake holes through the trailer.
Oh, hold up. Oh, dude.
Ah!
You're gonna come through your wheel well right there.
Ooh, what the shit.
Yeah.
We are taking the fender well off. And the reason we're doing that is because our exhaust and intake for our furnace are coming out right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this off, we're gonna get everything installed, and then when we go to put this back on, we're just gonna cut a little bit around the faceplate of the exhaust intake plate. That way, seal it back up. That way this will fit over top of that, all the way against it.
This obstacle was the biggest scare initially. We panicked and our first thought was, oh no, we have to fix our entire layout for this. Our biggest worry was that the exhaust being so close to a tire could cause tire damage. Luckily, we were being watched over because the hole that was closest to the tire was actually the intake, and the exhaust hole was above the trailer fender well, so the tires weren't at risk of being heated. But nonetheless, we had to remove the trailer fender well and finish cutting the 2 holes for the furnace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, update for you. Get this out of the way. We have a furnace box built, for the most part anyways. So we're going to take some of this fire barrier sealant and we are going to seam everything in here to keep it fire resistant. And inside those holes where those gaps are, we're actually going to take some fire barrier spray foam insulation, and we're going to insulate that for the exhaust and the intake to come through. That way we don't catch anything on fire.
With the furnace box completed, James finished the quick task of adding some toe kick protectors to our dinette. Using 2 pieces of extra flooring we had, he cut them down to 5 inches and Brad nailed them to the bottom of our dinette boxes. This should help protect it from getting shoe scuff marks, especially since they're white. James moved on to cutting the wood for our side-by-side desks. We're utilizing the front V of our V-nose cargo trailer as a dual office space for me and James. So here's James using his protractor, yes, a protractor, to find the perfect angle to cut the wood for the V-nose. Honestly, throughout this build process, it continued to blow my mind the way James had such accuracy when cutting things. He was able to utilize things like protractors to find perfect angles. He was able to sit down and calculate the right cuts, and he even accounted for blade thickness. I was just super proud of his abilities and knowledge throughout the process, and it made me extremely grateful for workers in skilled trades. Our carpenters, electricians, plumbers, roofers, construction crews, mechanics don't get thanked enough for the jobs they do that keep our world going. Labor-intensive jobs that take critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, hands-on ability to use dangerous machinery and perform dangerous jobs. Oof! We're just grateful to our tradesmen and want to take a moment to recognize the dying breed that you are. Thank you for your skill.
I've been spinning faster lately. Are my forearms getting bigger?
Our next step to complete the desks was to stain the wood. We used this beautiful Minwax stain and polyurethane combo to do the job. We used the color Classic Oak and we went with a gloss finish. The goal was to match this color to our butcher block the best we could. I started with a small brush and it was not providing the coverage that was needed. So I switched to a big brush and that helped spread the stain a lot farther and made the process a lot more efficient. Since the goal was to match to our butcher block, after one coat, I would say the Classic Oak was a good color choice. After staining the desks, we moved on to permanently mounting our sink to the butcher block.
So, per the instructions for this, so you don't drill too far down, and you have just enough room for the threaded plugs. It says to only drill down 1/2 inch. So, you're going to measure down 1/2 inch.
We wrapped a piece of painter's tape at the 1/2 inch mark so we knew exactly how deep to drill into the butcher block for the mount inserts to fit perfectly. We used the rubber side of a dead blow mallet to tap the inserts into the drilled holes, and then used clear silicone to trace the outline of the sink so it could create a sealed barrier as the sink was tightened down. All right, faucet went in permanently, sink is in permanently. What is it time for, my love?
It is time to close up this wall.
Wow, wonderful. Stove just has to go in, wall has to go up, cabinet has to go back, and we are cooking with gas over here, baby. Quite literally, propane actually.
Propane, yeah.
All right, let's do it. To permanently secure the butcher block to the frame, James started with the smallest drill bit to create pilot holes so as not to split the wood when screwing the butcher block to the frame. Then he used 2-inch wood screws to finish the job. After installing both countertops, we moved on to the sink plumbing. We used normal 1.5-inch plastic piping for the sink and shower drains.
This stuff doesn't need plumber strip. That's what these gaskets are for. And this flange gasket goes one way. So the flat end always goes on the nut end, and then the washer end always goes, or the beveled end always goes inside the piping. So this will go directly. Okay.
What I've done is, because I cannot put this end up to the sink, I have cut it down to this so that I can take this end actually, this.
James attached the pipe to the sink, measured where the hole should go through the floor, and started cutting. He spent the rest of the night connecting the piping underneath the trailer.
Okay.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this MusselBound mat.
It worked out quite well for our shower, by the way.
Really well.
Love you, MusselBound.
MusselBound. But what I've done is I've gone ahead. This is 12 inches. We're cutting our tile in half to go to 6 inches. And so I have just taken a razor blade and scored it down the middle at 6 inches. So now all we gotta do is just take off the 6-inch piece.
Please help us.
Need
Oh, we
to,
need spaces.
And I need to
We need spaces there.
wait a space there. Wait a space there.
Places there. Wait, oh, they're over there. Sitting here asking you a question.
Oh,
I'm not just twerking.
Cutting all of those off square.
Okay.
So that can be the starting corner.
After sticking the tile to our MusselBound mat, James removed the excess off the top, we taped the top and bottom, and started to grout, if you can call it that. Again, we used a color-matched silicone sealant by MAPEI, and it worked perfectly. We did the classic method of putting the grout all over the tile and then using a sponge with a bucket of water and soap to gently scrub away the excess. After the tiling was complete, we started to install our desk panels using L brackets. And that's it for Build Episode 7. Join us next time where we install our retractable shower door, cut and install our cabinet doors, sew our cushion covers, and complete our rooftop deck. As always, thank you for watching Home is Where the Hearts Are. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you don't miss any of our future episodes. See you soon!